Ah, the check engine light? You see that little orange symbol pop up on your dash, and you just know it's going to be a headache. And if your code reader spits out P0420, you're probably already thinking about a huge repair bill. But what if I told you it's not a death sentence for your wallet? What if it's just a mystery, a case that you can solve yourself? Well, welcome to our Detective's Guide.
The second you see that P0420 code, your mind, and let's be honest, probably your mechanic's mind too, jumps straight to one conclusion. The catalytic converter's gone bad. I mean, it's the most expensive suspect in the lineup, right? So it almost always takes the heat. But is it really the guilty party?
And that is the crucial first clue in our investigation. See, more often than not, the catalytic converter is actually the victim here. It's being framed for a crime committed by a totally different part. That P0420 code isn't the final verdict, it's just a symptom. So our job, as detectives, is to find the real culprit before we sentence an innocent and very, very expensive part.
So, to crack this case, we've got to start with the basics. We need to understand what this code is actually trying to tell us. Let's pull the official report.
Okay, so here's the official language your car's main computer, the Powertrain Control Module, or PCM, spits out. It sounds super technical. Catalyst system efficiency below threshold. But don't let the jargon scare you. The idea is actually pretty simple. And that bank 1 part, that just tells you which side of the engine the problem is on. If you've got a simple 4-cylinder, you only have one bank anyway, so no worries there.
And that's really all it boils down to. The catalytic converter has one job: clean up the nasty stuff in the exhaust. Your car's computer is like its boss, constantly monitoring its performance. When it sees that the converter isn't hitting its targets, it fails its performance review, and bam, it triggers that P0420 code.
So you're probably wondering, how does the computer even know? Well, it uses a team of informants. Think of the upstream O2 sensor as a reporter right at the scene, telling the computer exactly how messy the exhaust is before it gets cleaned. Then you have the catalytic converter, which is the cleaning crew. And finally, the downstream O2 sensor acts as the final inspector, checking the quality of the work. The computer just compares the before and after reports to see if the cleaning crew is actually doing its job.
Okay, so now that we know how the car flags the problem, it's time to bring in all the potential culprits for questioning. This is where the real detective work begins.
Now listen up, because this is probably the single most important clue in this whole investigation. So many people just rushed out and replaced the converter, spend a ton of money, and then the check engine light comes right back on. Why? Because they never solved the original crime. We are not going to make that mistake.
So here is our police lineup. First up, we have the framed part, a genuinely failed catalytic converter. It can happen. Next, the misinformant, a bad O2 sensor that's feeding the computer false information. Then we have the accomplice, an exhaust leak that's tampering with the evidence. And finally, you've got the instigator, an engine problem like a misfire that's sending raw fuel down the line and slowly poisoning the converter. Our job is to figure out who's really to blame.
Every detective needs the right tools to gather evidence. But the good news here is you don't need a full-blown forensics lab for this job. The tools are actually pretty simple and easy to get your hands on.
You really only need 3 things. First, an OBD2 scan tool. This is your direct line to the car's computer. It lets you eavesdrop on what it's thinking. Second, an infrared thermometer, a little temperature gun, for a really crucial test we'll get to in a minute. And third, and don't ever underestimate this one, your own eyes and ears. They're great for spotting obvious clues.
And here's our game plan. We're going to follow a logical, step-by-step process so we don't miss a thing. First, we'll interrogate the computer. Then, we'll search the scene of the crime for physical clues. After that, we'll analyze the sensor reports. And finally, we'll check our main suspect for a fever. Simple.
All right, let's put the plan into action. It's time to get our hands a little dirty, look at the data, and start crossing suspects off our list one by one.
Now, this is the golden rule of this investigation, so listen close. Before you even think about that P0420 code, you plug in your scanner and check for any other codes. If you see something for an engine misfire or a fuel system problem, you stop. You fix those first. Why? Because those are the instigators we talked about. They are actively damaging the catalytic converter. You fix the root cause, and a lot of the time, that P0420 code will just disappear. Now, this is where your scan tool becomes a lie detector. You can pull up the live data from your O2 sensors and watch them report in real time. On a healthy car, that upstream sensors graph is going to be jumping all over the place. That's normal. But a good converter smooths everything out, so the downstream sensors graph should be a nice, relatively flat, steady line.
If you see that downstream sensor just mirroring the wild swings of the upstream one, well, that's a telltale sign the converter isn't doing its cleaning job.
Okay, next up in our diagnostic plan is a test that is so simple but incredibly powerful. And it all comes down to this number, 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
So here's the deal. That chemical reaction happening inside the converter, it generates a ton of heat. That's how you know it's working. So after you let your car run for about 15 or 20 minutes to get everything nice and hot, you take your little infrared thermometer and you point it at the pipe right before the converter. Get a reading. Then point it at the pipe right after the converter. A working converter should be at least 100 degrees Fahrenheit hotter on the way out. If the temperature is the same or even cooler, that's a huge red flag that it's probably clogged up or dead.
So, we've gathered all our evidence, we've analyzed the reports, we've interrogated our suspects. Now, it's time to close the case, deliver the final verdict, and figure out the right fix.
And here's the payoff. The fix has to match the crime. It's that simple. Did you find out it was the misinformant? Well, then you replace the bad O2 sensor. Was it the accomplice? You find and repair that exhaust leak. The instigator? You fix that engine misfire. It's only after you have ruled out every single other possibility that you can finally convict the main suspect and then consider replacing the catalytic converter. And one last thing, don't skip this part. It's like filing the final case report. After you've done your repair, grab your scan tool, clear out the old codes, and then take the car for a good, solid test drive. This gives the computer a chance to run all its checks again and confirm that, yep, the problem is really solved. The goal is to see that check engine light stay off for good.
So remember, that P0420 code isn't a verdict. It's not a sentence. It's just the first clue. It's the start of an investigation. And by thinking like a detective, you won't just blindly replace parts. You'll solve the real problem, you'll save a whole lot of money, and honestly, you'll understand your car a lot better. You've got the plan, you know what tools you need. So, what's your first move, detective?